Thank you for your patience with us. I'd like to call the December 12th, 2023 Longmont City Council regular session to order. The live stream of this meeting can be viewed at the city's YouTube channel. It can also be viewed at longmontpublicmedia.org/watch or on Comcast channels 8 or 880. May we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Peck,
Here.
Councilmember Christ,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Hidalgo Faring,
Here.
Councilmember Martin,
Here.
Councilmember McCoy, Councilmember Rodriguez, Councilmember Yarbrough.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Let's stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the
To the
flag
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As a reminder to the public, the rules for providing public comment are as follows. Each speaker must give their name and address and is limited to 3 minutes. Only Longmont residents and employees of the City of Longmont may speak during first call public invited to be heard, and you must sign up on the list prior to the start of the meeting. And the list is outside the chamber. Persons wishing to speak on a specific second reading or public hearing item are asked to add their names to the speaker list for that specific item prior to the start of the meeting. Anyone may speak, and no sign-up is required to speak during final call public invited to be heard. We now have the December 5th minutes that we need to approve. No, I'm sorry, there are no minutes. That we're going to approve those next time. Do any counselors have agenda items that they would like to direct the manager to put on a future agenda? Who's for now? Counselor Hidalgo Faring.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just had a conversation with David Bell in the back. So we do have an upcoming resolution, I believe it is, on the approval for the Olander open space. And you know, in our discussion, one of the things is a lot of public aren't really aware of how much land we have dedicated to work on preserving, especially along the river corridor and near Union Reservoir. So I would move that we allow for time for our open space, Natural Works group to come and present on the work that they've been doing as far as open space preservation and what are the areas that are designated open space and what is our plan in the future.
So that's been motions made by Counselor Hidalgo Faring, seconded by Counselor McCoy. I do have a question, though. Do you have a specific time when you want this to happen?
No,
Okay.
so it's going to be totally at staff capacity.
Okay. Any other comments or discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. And that passes unanimously. Thank you. I do have one other item. Several months ago, HINA, which is the Historical East Side Neighborhood Association, they asked me to consider a request from HINA to support a conservation easement proposal. I asked them to wait until that was evaluated by the Historic Preservation Commission. And at their December 7th meeting, they okayed a resolution for the overlay. And I believe I got a copy of that resolution, but I did not send it out to everybody, and neither did HINA. I believe that one of our staff members did get that. And if anybody, counselor or staff, would like that resolution, I can send it to you. But I'm going to move to direct staff to initiate the conversation overlay process for the historic East Side neighborhood and to consider waiving the planning fee and the 1,000-foot peripheral area notification requirement. But in doing this, I would like this whole process explained, hopefully by our our major planner, Glenn Van Nimwegen. So I was trying to figure out how do I work that in. So possibly during the first quarter of the year.
Seconded.
So I made the motion. It was seconded by Counselor McCoy. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, oops, that's okay. Counselor Yarbrough.
Thank you, Mayor. I was a little confused.
Yeah.
Can you repeat that again for me? So we're directing staff to
Explain it to.
bring it back to explain it to us before we approve to waive the fees?
Because we don't even know exactly what we're voting on unless, there used to be a historic preservation overlay.
Put your mic on.
Yeah, microphone
Aren't I talking loud enough?
for me.
So there used to be a historic preservation overlay on the historic east side, if I remember correctly. I don't understand all of it, and that's the point of having it come back to be explained to us so we can decide if this is something we want to do or not.
Okay, I see Glenn up there. Okay,
Does that make sense?
yes.
I got it, Mayor. Yep.
Okay. Counselor Christ.
So does this refer to the general business line item A?
5.
5.
Where, yeah, and I'll explain it to you in a second.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we do. I'm just listening for a minute. Okay, all those, let's vote. That carries unanimously. Thank you, everybody. And now we're going to have the city manager's report.
Mayor, before you move on, I apologize.
Yes.
City Clerk, there are a couple of agenda revisions that I thought they were in your script, maybe not. 9D has a typo in it. It should be ordinance 2024-04. It says ordinance 2023, so I just wanted to make
Okay.
that correction.
Good.
Also wanted to note that items 7B and 9E will be pulled from the agenda. The presenter is ill, so that item, staff is pulling those, and we'll bring those back. I think on December 19th is the theory at this moment.
Okay.
Both items, yes, the presentation on the CHIPS incentive program and then the resolution to adopt it, they're related, so both of those will be pulled for future agenda.
Thank you, Dawn. So let's move on to the city manager's report. Our city manager is on Zoom tonight, as you can see. So
And
he will be
would
giving
like,
his.
he will give his report from there, Mayor.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I need some
Harold,
direction.
we can't hear you very
I'm
well.
off. Can you hear me now?
Here comes help.
You heard me a while ago. So.
Oh, you're getting better.
Okay.
That works.
Mayor, Council, we have your contingency, and it's just your council contingency, which is just slightly over 86,000. That'll be remaining this year, and I just need council direction to carry that over forward next year. So if council wants to direct a staff to carry the contingency over, we'll start that process.
Can I have a motion to do that? So moved. It's been moved by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor McCoy, to move the council contingency fund over to 2024. I have an echo. Let's vote. And that passes unanimously.
No more comments.
Okay, thank you, Harold. Yes, a little better, a lot better, thank you. So our next thing on the agenda is a special report from the St. Vrain Valley School District for their updates, and it looks like Superintendent Haddad is going to come to the podium.
Great, thank you, Mayor Peck and City Council. I'm going to provide just an update on the district. I've had an opportunity to do this at all of the municipalities. And as you know, St. Vrain spans out over 411 square miles, and it includes Lyons and Meade and Frederick and Firestone and Erie and Niwot and Dacono, and obviously our largest area here in Longmont. And currently we have 33,000 students, and we're at 60 schools, and we're continuing to grow. We're unique in that capacity because most of the school districts around us are losing enrollment at a pretty fast pace, but we're continuing to grow. And so we've got some plans that I'll share with you, but a couple things. I was at an event downtown in Denver at Empower Stadium today, and they were talking about economic development. And there was just a large room full of different people, legislators, elected officials, obviously, and business and corporate folks. And the comment that struck me the most is they were talking about the economic development and the economy in Colorado. And they tied it into what they referred to as one of the single most important factors that will influence that is the graduation rate of our students. And right now in America, we have 90% of all of the K through 12 children are moving through public schools. And so if you just fast forward, it stands to reason that 90% of our population is, or will be educated in the public school system. And the public schools are responsible for so much. Obviously, we teach our children the content and they go through the coursework, but we oftentimes don't talk about the fact that a community cannot have a strong economy unless it has a strong school district. And a community's public safety and a nation's national security, those two things become severely compromised if you don't have a great school district. And the values of our homes and the values of our properties, business and otherwise, all ebb and flow based on the quality, because the two main questions people ask when they move into a community, tell me about the schools and tell me about safety. Those are the two things they want to know first and foremost. And the quality of our service industry, because most of the people that we encounter every day are graduates from the public school system. And our workforce pipeline and our democracy and just about everything that you can talk about that's important to us in this country starts in the public schools. And I share that with you because I think it's important that the public hears that over and over and over so that they recognize that schools are places of extreme and significant importance. In St. Vrain, a couple of things that we're excited about. We have the highest graduation requirements among all of the surrounding districts and throughout Denver. And that's by design because we want to make sure that when our children graduate, they graduate and they're prepared for either the workforce, a 2-year associate degree, 4-year, the military, whatever it is that they're going to choose to do. And so we've set the bar really high. And used to be, over a decade ago, our graduation rate was at 75%. And that was when we actually had lower requirements, because we've since raised those requirements. Now our graduation rate, and this is the on-time graduation rate, is at 94%. And that's on time. That means in a 4-year period of time. Our dropout rate used to be at 7 to 8%, and it's at 0.6. So 99.4% of our students are going to finish, whether it's in 4 years at the 94% rate, or 4.5 years, or 5 years. And what's even more impressive by our teachers and our students and our parents is that a large number of students are graduating not only with their high school diploma, but they're graduating with either 1 full year of college under their belt and starting as a sophomore, or they accomplish a 2-year associate degree at no cost to the student. And we have 5 of those associate degree programs right now, 1 in computer information systems, 1 in cybersecurity, 1 in business, 1 in medical and biosciences and the pharmaceuticals, and 1 in teaching. And so we have 5 associate degree programs with large numbers of students earning their associate degree at the same time they're earning their high school diploma at no cost to the student. And they go right into the workforce. Or they can take that 2-year associate degree and move into a 4-year experience as a junior. And so there's a lot of excitement around the results that we're seeing. We also outperformed the state on 100% of the state required tests. And that's a pretty significant accomplishment by our teachers and our students and our parents. Not by 80%, but 100% of the tests we outperformed the state. And we continue to see them rise. Even though they're high, they continue to go up. We also have experienced a lot of success from the College Board, which is arguably one of the most prestigious educational institutions in America for high schools and public schools. And all but one of our, right now we have 8 comprehensive high schools. We also have 3 that are either online or virtual and those types of things, but 8 comprehensive high schools. And 7 of them received the highest recognition in the country, being recognized as an Advanced Placement College Board high school honor roll school. And that is a pretty amazing feat, because a lot of districts would be excited if they had one of their high schools achieve that. But to have that many. We're also very proud of our co-curricular programs. When you think about music, for example, band, choir, orchestra, all of those things, we, for the last 3 years, have been rated and identified as one of the top 15% in the country for our music programs, and no other school district in Colorado. One other has done it once, but no other school district has done it even once, except that one, and no one has done it twice. And this year we were recognized at the state level at the Colorado Association of School Boards. We had Longmont's music program they were able to perform. And so that was very exciting for them. And our athletic teams and our drama programs and our theater programs, we're seeing those excel too. I'll give you an example with athletics. In the last 2 years, we've had higher percentage of state championships individually and team than any other school district in the state. And so our kids are excelling academically, in the co-curricular, all of these metrics where we can be excited as a community, because they're going to, at some point in time, be me and you and all of the rest of us. They're going to graduate and they're going to become our leaders, both in Longmont, in Colorado, in our nation, and in our world. So we're very excited about that. A couple of other things that are noteworthy, our robotics teams. We have 250 robotics teams spread across 60 schools. They've won the state championships at the elementary, middle, and high school level for several years. And last year they won the world championships in Texas, and the only system to ever win both the large division and the small division in the same year. And clearly the only one in Colorado to ever win it. So we're very excited. There were 70 countries competing. And so that's another demonstration. We also took first place in the World Artificial Intelligence competition with our students. And we were one of 4. It was China, St. Vrain, Saudi Arabia, and then a district out in Pennsylvania. And again, we were able to host that here in St. Vrain at the Innovation Center. And we were also able to host the World Underwater Robotics Championships at our new Aquatics Center. So there's a lot of things that are happening. We're growing as a district. Again, we're at 33,000. Our build-out plan is for 70 to 75,000. So we're going to keep growing for many, many years to come. And you know, because you can see in the 411 square miles, there's a lot of room. In 2024 in November, we most likely will go for a bond initiative, not a mill levy override. We have a large amount of funding and reserves in our operations funding program. So we don't need to go for a mill levy override. We have to go for a bond because it's the only mechanism in Colorado where you can build more schools, and we have to do that. And we have to upgrade safety measures and the environment within all of our facilities. So our board will be looking at that, and they will most likely approve that. Now the good news is, because the assessed valuation in our 411 square miles has grown so much, we can go for a relatively large bond without having to raise anybody's tax rates. And that's a pretty unique position to be in, to say we're going to build new schools, we're going to double the size of the Innovation Center, we're going to put a career and tech ed center on the other side of our district to match the one that we have here. We're going to build out another swimming pool. We're going to upgrade all of our safety features. We're going to replace carpets, strengthen our roofs, do all of the things that we need to do for maintenance, and we're not going to have to raise anybody's tax rate to do it. And that's a very unique position to be in. We have to have a vote because that's the law. But to say to our public, we're not going for a mill levy override, and we are going for a bond, but the bond will not result in your tax rate being increased. And that's a pretty strong fiscal place to be in. And with that, I'll share with you when I talk about finances. For over 15 years, the St. Vrain Valley School District has been recognized by the Association of School Business Officials and the Governmental Financial Officers Association with the two highest awards you can receive in financial transparency and management. And that's for over 15 years in a row. And our bond ratings are the highest in the state for public schools because of our reserves, because of the way in which we manage our money, and the support that we've received from our community. We have 7 different areas where we have mayors and councils, and I've had the opportunity to visit all of you, and I'm continuing. I'll be back again in the spring just to keep updating you. But my hope is that when we do move forward, if we do, I always say that, but I'm pretty confident that we will with a bond, that Mayor, you and the council will endorse that bond, as it will bring a lot of benefit to Longmont, but also throughout the entire community. And I am, going into my 40th year in public education. I'm in my 15th year as a superintendent in St. Vrain. I've watched this community grow, and I've watched the opportunities that you've provided for this community and that what we're all providing for our children. And I just don't think that there's a greater investment. And our board and I have both made the commitment that we will stop at that dollar amount so that it does not raise anybody's taxes. We will not go any higher than the amount that would trigger an increase in tax rates. So that's it in a nutshell. I could probably go on, but I know you've got business. But if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. I will say this, Councilmember McCoy, my daughter was in your class and always speaks very fondly of you and the experiences that she had. And she's 29 years old now and just tackling the world. And she's a perfect example of when you have great teachers, that's a big plus for a child. So, but do you have any questions or anything?
Yes, I see that Councilor Hidalgo Faring has a question.
Oops, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so I heard the speech, I heard your talk earlier at the AR meeting, but thank you for taking the time to come out.
Sure.
I have seen, just as a classroom teacher, but also as liaison to the youth council, the phenomenal work that the kids are doing and the critical thinking that is happening and how they collaborate. And I totally attribute it to the teachers they've had and very supportive families and supportive community that has, when I first came into this district in the early 2000s, I came at the very start of the financial crisis, and I was like, that's why I got the job so fast.
Me too.
And so we've really come a long way. And I appreciate the connectedness to the community. Something that I would like to see more of is a collaboration between, and I already see it with public safety, our SROs in the school, but more around, I see a lot of our kids that kind of fall through the cracks that are not invested in the school. And, the battle of trying to get that intrinsic motivation sparking in them. And I know our city has dedicated a lot of time. We have a lot of great talent, people in children's, youth, and families who have programs that are outside of the school realm. So maybe they're not playing sports, or they're not invested in school, or they don't meet the grades. So, finding ways, and for a lot of our kids, it's transportation, getting to the youth center. So it's such an asset for the kids at Timberline, but, kids maybe at Longs Peak or at Indian Peaks or Sunset, trying to get them out over there. So, having some kind of collaboration where we could provide transportation or something that we can work more closely on kind of filling in those, some of those gaps as well. Because I know that for kids who are invested in it, we've provided, there's so much resources in the district that help them, the sky's the limit. And, I kind of want to, help make sure that everybody.
The good news is 99.4,
Yes.
99.4 of themselves.
They're getting there, yeah.
0.4% are there.
Yes.
So we're talking about a small number.
A small number.
And a very important number. But one of the things we've been fortunate enough, since you're bringing up transportation, you know, we're a district that has not yet had to start canceling bus routes. Most of the districts have had to cancel Boulder Valley, Jefferson County, Denver, because they don't have bus drivers. We've been able to hire very well, so our buses are running full fleet. And what we're doing, to your point a little bit, we're going to purchase a number of small buses. And so when we travel for athletics and other places, it keeps some of our larger buses in, you know, online here. And so that will help us from a gas perspective, but also a gasoline perspective, but also from availability, you know, to have those buses. The other thing that for a lot of the students who do struggle, we're able now to provide them with breakfast, lunch, and after-school meals at no cost to the students. And so that's another benefit that so between preschool at no cost to the students, full-day kindergarten at no cost to the students, which we've been doing for over 15 years, even though the state's trying to make it work now. And then all of the educational programs, and then a college education at no cost, and all of the members of our community pitching in through mill levy overrides and bonds and corporate sponsorships and everything. Our children are very well taken care of, and we would welcome any assistance that you would like to provide. So if you have transportation that you would like to provide for our students, we definitely, and again, I visit with both the mayor and the city manager at our Economic Development Council board meetings, and we have a great relationship with the SROs, and we have a relationship with other members of your staff as well. So we feel that there's a lot of support that we receive, and we're grateful, and a lot of support that we want to give back.
And so.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I have one more question, and then I'll stop talking. So a question that I've actually received a lot during the last election season, as a candidate as well as, you know, the council member who approved our ballot initiatives on the rec center, was, and I didn't want to answer that because I don't have that background
What's the
knowledge.
question?
And I'm going to give you that right now, sorry. It is around the pool. So, you know, a lot of questions that I asked, well, can we use the pool? Can we use the pool? And, you know, I was like, you'll have to talk to, direct to you. But it was something that kept coming up over and over again. So just really for public record, if you can address, what's the nuances behind that?
Yeah, well, we built the school for our multiple swim programs. And so we have, in the wintertime, we have the pool being used early morning, afternoon, evenings, and then again in the spring. The summer provides a little bit more option. And I know that you guys closed your pools because you couldn't find lifeguards. And so we're hoping that that's been rectified, because I know that we had a lot of questions about why are all the city pools closed?
Yes.
Or why do they need maintenance? And I said, well, I can't answer the questions. You have to go to city council to find out why they've closed all these opportunities for students. But from our perspective, we do have the pool open. We're planning to build another pool on the east side of the district. Those will be primarily for our programs, our physical education programs, our sports programs, our robotics programs. We are in conversation with a couple of organizations where we might be able to find some time when we can open the pool. But, we're going to continue to grow. But if there's anything that we can do to help you to open your pools to the community, and I know Harold remembers when we tried to go for an initiative to build a rec center for the city of Longmont, and unfortunately that would have included a pool and an ice rink and things like that. But, excuse me, unfortunately that did not pass. But if there's ever a time when you might want to try that again, we can certainly have those conversations. And Mayor, we can talk about it at our Economic Development Council. But anything we can do to help you to open your pools, because we noticed that and we heard a lot about that too.
Okay.
And so you've got some good pools here, and having them closed I know it's tough on you.
Yeah.
It's hard to find lifeguards. But so that's the question, and I think it was Red Fins and maybe one other group that had come forward that we were going to have some conversations with about some off times for our pools to be used.
Very good.
The nice thing about our pool is we were able to build that off of interest. So we did not spend any general fund dollars or any taxpayer dollars to build that pool. We built it off of investments. And so we're hoping that if we can get another one on the other side, that between the two, we can accommodate our 33,000 students.
Great, thanks
So
for
you-
clarifying that.
Yep, you bet. And Mayor, I'll answer any other questions, but I wanted to just say thank you for the time.
You're welcome. And for the residents, we do have enough lifeguards. Our pools are going to be open and are open.
Great.
Yeah, I was gonna say, our pools have been open for a while.
Great,
It's just
yeah.
that one time frame.
Yep, that's great. Maybe it was last summer. I don't remember.
We're all good.
We're all good, but so thank
Councilor
you.
McCoy?
Thank you, Mayor Peck. Superintendent Haddad, I really want to thank you for everything you do because, as a product of the St. Fern Valley School District, my wife and I and my daughters also graduated from St. Fern Valley School District schools, Silver Creek. You guys do a wonderful job, and I wanted to give a shout out to Jim Givens from Longmont High, who has really been a really incredible advisor for future business leaders, and what he's doing now with that program for the high schools of business. You guys have got a heck of a program there. Over 300 kids involved with business-related certifications and also with FBLA. And it's the largest chapter in the state of Colorado. And we're holding a conference at Longmont High in February, and we couldn't do that without the generosity and the stable environment of St. Vrain, so thank you.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I was going to tell you, but you already know, it's the largest one in the entire state, and they're just doing amazing work. It's incredible.
Just incredible, and those
Yeah.
guys are doing great work.
Yeah. And I know that I gave a compliment to, but I do want to follow up. Working with John Garcia and with the entire department, your chief, everyone, they just have been phenomenally supportive. And I could not be more grateful for them and the work that they provide, and our children really enjoy interacting with them and learning from them. So thank you for all of that support as well.
Councilor Martin?
Thank you, Mayor Peck. Superintendent Haddad, I have a question about the future. I've been a club sponsor, Girls Who Code and
Yeah.
such like, for many years and intermittently, and absolutely agree that we've seen the quality of education in St. Vrain Valley schools improve over the last 15 years tremendously. And I liked the list of different academic areas of endeavor. There's one that I didn't hear, and I found working from the outside in the last municipal election that we have a real lack of understanding among our electorate of civics. And these are people who've mostly, as you said, 90% been through the public school system. Not all of them here, of course, because of the growth that we've had. So my question for you is, over the next few years, what are you doing to improve the public understanding of the workings of government and the workings of democracy?
Well, that's been a state requirement for years. So all of our students are required to go through programming around civics and government. And so it's not something new. It's something that all of our graduates experience, and they experience it at a pretty high level. So I'm not really sure what you're referring to, other than I do believe that people aren't paying as close attention. They get a great education while they're in school with us, and then they move on out of school, and I think sometimes they get disconnected, because I was having this conversation with some other people about just the low turnout at elections. And then afterwards, when they find out who's been elected, they're like, then they have something to say, and it's like, well, you should have said this, that, and the other thing. But we have, voting promotion, registration for our students that happen in our schools. The county comes in and helps our children register to vote when they become 18. We have a formal civics program that's a graduation requirement for all students to experience. And the history courses that they take they have 3 years that they're required in high school. And so it's pretty extensive. I think the question is a good one, though, in that how can we, as a city council, engage the community to get them to understand the importance of showing up and the importance of voting. And we also have a number of speakers that come in. We have a lot of elected officials that come in and explain the legislative process in our schools. We have a student senate where Brandon Schaefer, who is a former state senate president, brings students together, and they actually go down to the Capitol and they testify on certain bills and legislation. And so it's a pretty robust program, but I'd be interested in partnering with you to find out how can we engage our community to get them to understand some of the pressing issues in our society so that they'll engage more.
I think the reason that I asked the question is maybe because, if they're going through the class, it always used to be, I don't see how all this math is relevant to my life. And I suspect that what's happening is that students go through and say, I don't see how all of this government stuff is relevant to my life. Yeah. And that's how they behave once they are in the electorate. Oh, there was an election? Wow, I don't like the results, just as you said. Yeah. So my question is, how do you get up to the award-winning level in that so that we have engaged students who stay engaged?
Yeah. Well, a lot of it, we have the student government programs in all of our high schools and in middle schools. And so they don't necessarily recognize those all the time with national awards and stuff like that. But I can tell you our student governments are very, very active in all of the schools. They call it student council, some call it student government. And that's over and above the coursework that they have to take. And, the person that you're sitting next to there can testify to that because he taught in that subject area. And I will tell you that a lot of our kids are very engaged. A lot of them are very engaged. As I said, they go down to the Capitol building. They're testifying. They're doing all kinds of things. I do think that there's something that's going on with politics. People are engaging in ways that are not as civil. They're engaging in ways that are not as active, proactive and getting involved in the ways that they should. But yeah, and again, any suggestions that you have, we are more than happy to hear them and stuff. But right now, it's a pretty vibrant program.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, counselors and Superintendent Haddad. And we do have the council and school board meetings where we get together, and that would be a good time to quiz all of you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you very
I
much.
think I actually saw a picture with some of our kids getting, I don't know if it was somewhere I saw a picture. Did they come and, maybe it was through the Chamber of Commerce program. We have kids that are part of Leadership Longmont, and maybe that's where I saw them come and take the picture.
Carrie Adams brings her kids here.
And Carrie Adams, we have a student leadership program, a student advisory program, and Carrie Adams is kind of helping facilitate leadership among
Okay.
a large number of students.
Thank you
So,
very much.
you
This is a
bet.
great presentation.
Thanks for your time. Okay, take care. You want me to shut this?
We are now at first call, public invited to be heard. And remember, we need your name and address, and you have 3 minutes. The first one on the list is Leo Buhaker. And sir, I just want to ask you that you have 10A on here, which is on second reading.
Okay.
Do you want to wait
You can just
until
mark that off.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you, Mayor-elect Peck, council members, Eugene, Harold. I have an Asian friend who is a professor of physics at the University of Texas at Austin, and out of respect to the Nepali event here, just a word of contemplation for the professors who were shot by Anthony Alito at UNLV. The historic, just a couple quick things. The historic East Side overlay, I think, is a great idea. I disagree with you, Mayor Peck, on Mr. Haddad's presentation. It was the worst presentation I've ever heard. His focus was on pools. Maybe I should have brought my bikini. And he says that bond increases in spending interest is not a form of taxation. Well, I need to debate Mr. Haddad, because any type a bond or is a form of taxation. And anytime you guys spend $1 of taxpayer money, it's a form of taxation. And I want to focus more on the 0.1% or less than 0.5% of the students and teachers who are of African American descent versus the sugar-coated numbers that he presents. The next time, the city of Longmont and Mr. Haydad's plan are not sustainable. So the next time the city of Longmont tries any type of tax increase, bonds, etc., I will begin circulating a tax and budget petition for codification requiring under penalty that the city of Longmont reduce sales and all municipal related taxes, reduce staff, and spending with an additional reduction point at 25%. The other side of the equation of raising taxes, with the exception of 5 key City of Longmont positions, is all city workers will be put on an indefinite furlough and replaced by part-time volunteers. I want to be the volunteer dog catcher. As far as Kim Buck goes, the do-nothing loser, not never been a Republican, Kim Buck, House Speaker Mike Johnson, the Bushes, and a Supreme Court justice are part of an undocumented political party called the Confederate Christian Anti-Abortion Pro-Spending Liberals, or CAPLs. The CAPLs are 14th Amendment haters, third-party swing votes. Currently, there are 115 CAPLs in the House, 115 Lincoln Republicans, like Boebert and Lambert, and 215 Union Democrats. Truly, the pro-spending liberals hold 330 seats. The Lincoln Republicans only hold 115. The CAPLs continue to lead the U.S. into a quadrillion-dollar deficit, obliteration of the 14th Amendment, and then to slavery. Recall, on the eve of this Civil War to end slavery, the 36th Congress resembled today's Congress. Had I been Abraham Lincoln, I would have executed Jefferson Davis, put his head in the rotunda, and of course, after guiding freed slaves to the North, demilitarizing the Confederacy of all weapons and artillery, executing all Confederate soldiers, and I would have let Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana secede. Go ahead, make our day. DeSantis is a suitable Confederate president.
Thank you, Leo.
Thank you.
Next on the list is Sarah Graham.
Hello, thank you for letting me participate. My name's Sarah Graham. I'm a Longmont resident, local elementary school teacher, and let's see. A big part of what I love about my job is the component of peace education. And I love that Longmont can highlight and celebrate our community's diversity. I'm here as a neighbor, a parent, and an educator in support of the beautiful and fun cultural events that you all support, available to the whole Longmont community. And specifically, I'm here today in the hopes of getting more support for Nepali Jatra, which is full of joyous celebrations that I find very valuable, and so do my students. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Pushpa Guru.
Hello, Mayor Peck. My name is Pushpa Gurung, and my address is 2422 Turanian Circle. I moved here in Longmont 2003, and then I have been a real estate agent since 2015. My intention here is to share my experience as a real estate agent in the area. What city is planning to create more new build homes, if the planning allows that. I know as a real estate agent that attracts people with Nepali heritage or background because they take pride in home ownership. That's what my experience has been, but that's what I have absorbed over the years. Because I have seen in 2 communities, Harvest Junction and Sienna Park, that those 2 communities, when they were built, that brought about 50 families in those communities. But the current challenge is there are not enough new built homes right now. So I wanted to know, compared to the neighboring city, Erie, there's the explosion of expansion in Erie. That's not my intention to happen here, but at least have the option if people wanted to move here for better quality of life, schools, opportunities, inclusiveness, diversity, and things like that. And I wanted to know also what City of Longmont is offering in terms of inclusiveness or diversity. I think Nepali Jatra created that opportunity for people like us, and also share our cultures with people with other backgrounds as well. Many citizens with Nepali heritage are also business owners, and what does city offer to small business owners who are from different backgrounds and heritage? So in my opinion, along with excellent schools we have, because 2 of my kids graduated from St. Rain School District, with the mentioned factors I just mentioned here, if we can focus on that, I think we can really attract more people with Nepali heritage background. There are currently about 200 families in Longmont, and I hope we can grow that numbers in the future with more planning and what people with Nepali heritage focus on, what they what interests them and things like that. So education, business, cultural diversity and things like that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Pushpa. Sam Safi?
Good evening. Sam Safi, 1741 Crestone Drive. Madam Mayor, you have seen me for the last 20 years. Most of you, you have known me for 20 years. I have been participating in multicultural activities, and I've enjoyed living here in Longmont. I'm here only to show my support for the Nepalis. Within 3 years, really, they took over all other activities that we have supported for the last 20 years. That shows leadership. So thank you. Where is she? I'm sure you will hear from Salandra later on, but she might be small, but she's she's a giant in her own way. So I'm here to support her efforts. And on agenda item J. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Naveen Dutta?
Good evening, Mayor Peck and the rest of the council members. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to come here and speak a little bit about Nepali Jatra. I'm also here to support Sunanda Nepali Jatra. I am the founder member of Rocky Mountain Friends of Nepal.
Can I just ask for your address?
Sure. Oh, sorry.
No problem.
Red Cloud Road, Longmont. So I'm the founder president of Rocky Mountain Friends of Nepal, which has been in existence since 2002. Even before that, actually, a bunch of Peace Corps members that had served in Nepal, they opened that organization, but it was registered in 2002. And so I was the founder president of that organization. And we've done many years of, cultural events like this to assimilate our community better in the society here in the United States. But what Sunanda is doing here in Longmont is just exemplary. It's really nice that, we have something of that nature that gives the public here in Longmont, the general public, because that program is open to general public. So it gives the public a glimpse into what Nepali society is like, what Nepali culture is like, and you might have seen over the last couple of years, that program has been packed. It's always been sold out. So it's my pleasure to come here and support Sunanda on that front. I'm sure that she's going to be doing good with the dollars that the city provides her for her program. She's a very strong woman and obviously with a loving husband and beautiful kids. So hats off to you, Sunanda. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to come and present here on behalf of Nepali Jatra. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I want to ask for apologies if I mess up this next name. Pramod Shrestha?
Very close. It's pronounced Pramod Shrestha.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor, City council members, employees of the city, fellow Longmonsters, hello. My name is Pramod Shrestha. I live at 1715 Sunset Street. And I'm here to talk about in support of Nepali Jatra. I'm from a Nepali background here. And talking about inclusiveness or diversity, I'm married to a girl from Mexican background. The purpose of life is happiness and abundance. And based on that fact, all the cultures, all festivals or traditions, that's what it's based on. And the festivals and cultures are meant to be shared. And because they bring inclusiveness. When I feel inclusive, when I feel included, it brings security. Because as a social being, when we know the other person or the individual, I feel safe. And that's exactly what Nepali Jatra is doing. And the purpose of the Jatra itself, it's celebration. And to talk about Nepali Jatra, another celebration from a different culture, this is the perfect time because we're at the time of the celebration. As a Nepali community member, we just celebrated Dasai, which is one form of celebration. And then after that, there's another Festival of Lights. You guys might have heard about it as a Diwali, because the people from Indian background celebrate the same thing. We call it Deepavali, which means the Festival of Lights. So I'm going to come back to Nepali Jatra. It's important because it increases the sense of inclusiveness among different communities. And then it's also going to be a juncture point where different community members come. And over there, different community members can come, they talk about each other, they can support their business. And at the end, whatever funding you guys are going to provide to this project is going to go right back to the cities. And to talk a little bit about Nepali community in Longmont, the presence is growing, as a few other speakers have already said. Now the community owns 5 different restaurants. If you haven't gone, please do. Everest is one. There's a tiffin right at the village. There's one at the Francis Street. There's another restaurant there, Nepali restaurant. Gurkha is another one. It's right on Hover. There's one grocery store. If you want spicy food, definitely go. That's at Francis Street also. And there are a few gas stations there. And then at the same time, we had some Lions Club, one Lions Club, and then we were supporting the people here too. So basically the presence of Nepali community is growing, and we like to be here. We love living in Longmont. It's an amazing place, and I hope City of Longmont supports this Jatra. Thank you.
Thank you. Malisha, and I'm not going to try to pronounce the last name.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Melissa Shrestha. I live in Magnolia Street, and I'm delighted to be here to talk about the significance of our culture and why celebrating it is so critical. Growing up in a Newari family, I was immersed in a rich variety of festivals, traditions, and cultural practices. Those events not only shaped up my upbringing, but instilled in me the belief that they foster togetherness in communities and create bonds that surpass individual differences. Growing up, I witnessed how these events served as a powerful medium to connect people and build bonds that transcended differences. These insights increased my desire to help build a venue where people of other ethnic backgrounds could join together to celebrate and learn more about Nepalese culture. My journey led me to discover the club named NSA at CU Boulder, where passionate young minds like mine aspire to share our Nepali culture and festivals. We worked hard to create events that would not only resonate with our own community, but also serve as a bridge for people from different backgrounds to learn and appreciate our heritage. Furthermore, I want to share a memorable experience during a Newari Jatra. Our NSA group was honored with an invitation to participate, promoting us with a unique opportunity to actively contribute and immerse ourselves in the festival. This collaboration not only strengthened our connection with the Newari culture, but also deepened our understanding of events like Indra Jatra. It's through such inclusive initiatives that we can truly appreciate and learn from each other's traditions, fostering a spirit of unity and cultural exchange. The mission of our club is to provide opportunity for everyone, irrespective for their cultural background. And I believe that people should know more about our culture, not just through these clubs, but also through our old generations by hosting events so that we can learn and teach our next generations. And with your guys and everyone help, we can showcase the vibrant tapestry of Nepali festival, art and tradition, so that more children who come here at a young age, just like me, can learn about their rich cultural heritage and be connected with their own culture. And if there are many Nepali events happening here in Longmont, Colorado, not only myself but countless other children and individuals residing here will have the chance to learn, experience and appreciate the beauty of our culture. So together, let's just make and celebrate diversity, promote understanding, and build a stronger and more interconnected community. Thank you.
Thank you, Aisha. Now, Aisha Prajapati. It was Malisha that I was thinking.
Hello and namaste. My name is Aisha. I live in 2155 Meadow Court, Longmont. Thank you for inviting us in this event and let us speak about a few things about Nepali Jatra. And I'd like to thank everybody who have helped us and support us this year too. And maybe we'll get more about this in upcoming years and we can put this alive in us. So I'm here to emphasize on giving the continuity to the culture for our new kids and new generation who are here in US. And then I would like to say, we have been in our country and we have lived all our lives being in the culture and talking about all the traditional rituals that we have, and we've been passing on from our ancestor and our grandparents. So we lack to pass it on our kids, what we are referencing on, I cannot reference what is the reference. There is a jatra, I can show them in YouTube, but can I reference them what it is and how it is shown? Because it has so many contents and so many things to imitate, and we lack in the limitation of support. Like I recently saw in Main Street, I saw a Christmas slideshow. It really motivates me and makes me feel like we should have one of our chariot thing that we go on too. Like in Nepal, there is a chariot, lot of things that go hand in hand. It's such a lot of bustling things that you get to see. There's a multiple cultural diversity. A lot of people gather together, hand in hand together. I miss that to showcase my children, my upcoming generation, being in hand, looking at those cultural dance, music, festivals, that crowd. Oh my God, I miss that crowd and I cannot showcase that my children. So it's so important to have something in this place too and give them the continuity of the culture. When we always learn about the culture, ritual, tradition, we always say it must be passing on from one generation to another and keep it alive. But what we have to do that for our upcoming generation and our kids that are gonna be here living. So I think it's gonna be so much important to showcase them that whatever we have and we can pass it on to you. And there is so many things, there is a broad ideas, and then there is so much culture in it that we can showcase to you as well, and giving us the opportunity to showcase those. Of course, there is a lot of things that we can work on and we can get help from you guys. And participation is the most important thing that I feel like to showcase them and encourage them in this Jatra too. Jatra is not just about one tradition or festival or occasion. It also helps us to come together and live our life and showcase how it is so important that the culture that we come from, it is too important to, make alive in us. So thank you so much
Thank you,
for giving me 3 minutes. And then if I have made any people, any questions, let me know. And then thank you for giving us that place to
You're
grow.
welcome.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Triloki Patel.
Hello, good evening, Mayor, and good evening, everybody. And thanks for inviting us for here. And I'm also here for support for Nepali Jatra. And it's Triloki. I live in Longman since 2019.
Can you tell us what your address is?
1815 Traverse Circle, very close to the S Garden Park. And the Nepali Jatra, all my speaker, a lot of speakers talk about the Nepali Jatra, what it is and how it's worked. That's like it's basically from the Nepal. But I'm here to be, what is the importance of Nepali Jatra in regard Longman? It's a startup from the celebration, but now it's growing as a like a bigger stage for the advertisement of the Nepal, like a local business or a small business like us. I'm also doing a business. I'm business owner, and I'm doing a business in Longman since 2022, and now I have a 2 restaurant in Berthoud. I think I met Mayor before there over at my restaurant too, in Berthoud Grand Patch Cafe, but I'm still living here. So it's a very good stage to be advertisement of our small business, and also it's give a place to be invite people from from other city, and they come here over and support the business to and during the celebration going on. So thanks all. That's all I have to be say about the Nepali Jatra.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Vijay Shrestha.
Good evening, Mayor Peck and council members. My name is Vijay Shrestha. I live in 2191 Angus Street. Today I'm here to talk on behalf of Nepali Jatra. Myself, I was one of the performing artists at Nepali Jatra, and I play instruments sitar and tabla. This form of music, classical music, was passed down to me from my dad, and then to him from his grandfather and his gurus, and both my parents are musicians. I moved here in 2016, and always wondered how can I keep this legacy keep on going. And I was really glad, I met with Sunandaji, and the concert that they organized, the program Nepali Jatra, it was really a great platform for me to showcase our art and culture. The concert was great success, not only with the numbers of people that came into the concert, but even after the concert, people were asking about the form of music and then the cultures, the traditions. It was also a great exposure for a lot of even the Nepalese people, that they were seeing these instruments and music for the first time. And a lot of people were interested in learning this form of music. So it was such a great platform. And I would really, request you to support Nepali Jatra for upcoming years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sunanda Dangal.
Namaste, everybody. Mayor Peck and all the council members. I had the privilege of putting this show together, and some of you, I think, had...
Sunanda, would you mind giving us your address, please?
Sorry. 2038 Red Cloud Road.
Thank you.
Some of you had witnessed the event in person, so I'm really glad that you were able to come. I have a lot to say, but I know I have only 3 minutes. So what I wanted to say is Longmont is an inclusive community where people from all over the world seamlessly blend in. The warm reception of the first edition of Nepali Jatra at Longmont Museum was not surprising, drawing an overflowing audience. For the second year, we expanded to 4 venues within the museum. However, the overall space proved insufficient for our vibrant community. The enthusiastic crowd clearly indicated a desire for Nepali Jatra to grow bigger and better, and I believe this alone should be the reason to extend your support to Nepali Jatra. Thank you very much, and we look forward to welcoming you in our 3rd edition at Roosevelt Park. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sunanda. Martin Orner.
Mayor and Council, Martin Orner, 1417 Auburn Court in Longmont. Of course, cultural and religious diversity can only help us be a stronger community. With that being said, I live near Hover Park, and I went into the temporary facility which was placed there since the pagoda, the other facilities closed for the winter, and I was shocked to see the graffiti on the walls inside that temporary facility, which the city pays the vendor to place there. There is no place in this city or in this country for the things that are written on the inside of the walls of that facility. I have called the vendor. They said, talk to the city. I called Parks. I heard nothing back. I called Parks again. I received a message from the park superintendent, which honestly was just a bunch of gobbledygook about nothing really being done. I have saved that voice message. It's on my phone. I have photographs of this terrible stuff on my phone, which I would like to show to some representative of the city here tonight. I ask that the city please have someone get back to me about what's going to be done about that temporary facility. Whether that graffiti was on it when it was delivered to the city, I don't know. Maybe it was put on there since it's been here, unknown. Nevertheless, the vendor should be responsible for cleaning that stuff up or taking that facility out and replacing it with one that is not defaced in that manner. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to show these photographs to somebody here so that they can witness what I have seen.
Mr. Orner, you're standing right next to the person who can help you and the gentleman in the back. So if he'll raise his hand and you can talk to him.
Thank you for your dedication to our city.
You're welcome. Lance Whitaker.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. My name is Lance Whitaker, 1750 Collier. Oh, too short. Here we go. You'd figure I'd be an expert at this by now, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, let's start over. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. My name is Lance Whitaker, 1750 Collier Street. I've been living in Longmont since around 1980. Today is National Gingerbread House Day. It is also National Poinsettia Day, National Ambrosia Day, National Ding-a-Ling Day, and National Day of Neutrality. And as for all the people with the Nepal celebration, I didn't hear about it, and Lance likes to hear about a good party, so next year I'll be attending that. I'd like to also remind you all that the American dream is not about a house with a white picket fence. It is about religious persecution and how we need a land that does not persecute the other for whatever beliefs they may have. That is what's called liberty. Thank you, Mayor and City Council.
Thank you, Lance. Seeing no one else on the list, I'm going to close first call public invited to be heard. Do we need a break up here? We're going to take a 5-minute break. consent agenda and introduction and reading by title of first reading ordinances. And Dawn, would you mind reading the consent agenda into the record?
Absolutely, Mayor. The public hearing and second reading of the ordinances introduced tonight on this agenda will be held on January 9th, 2024. Item 9A is ordinance 2024-01, a bill for an ordinance conditionally approving the 11386 East Rogers Road annexation and concept plan, generally located in the southwest quarter of Section 2, Township 2 North, Range 69 west of the 6th Prime Meridian, and zoning the property mixed-use employment. 9B is ordinance 2024-02, a bill for an ordinance authorizing a farmland lease agreement between the City of Longmont and David Asbury on the Montgomery Farm. Item 9C is ordinance 2024-03, a bill for an ordinance amending Chapter 14, Section 1408, related to sewers. Item 9D is ordinance 2024-04, a bill for an ordinance authorizing the City of Longmont to lease the real property known as Vance Brand Municipal Airport Hangar Parcel H44C to VBMA Hangar 44C LLC. Item 9E is the item that we are pulling. That's Resolution 2023-103 regarding CHIPS. Item 9F is Resolution 2023-104, a resolution of the Longmont City Council authorizing the agreement between the City of Longmont and Western Equipment and Truck, Inc. for the purchase of real property for open space purposes. 9G is Resolution 2023-105, a resolution of the Longmont City Council approving the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Longmont and the City of Fort Collins for flex bus services. 9H is Resolution 2023-106, a resolution of the Longmont City Council establishing fees for criminal justice records. 9I is Resolution 2023-107, a resolution approving a purchase and sale agreement with Diamond G Concrete Company for the purchase of real property for a future affordable attainable development project. 9J is approved request for city sponsorship of the Nepali Jatra event. 9K is approved one capital improvement program amendment. 9L is approved City Council and LHA Board of Commissioner meeting schedule for January 2024 through January 2025. And 9M is approved City Council liaison appointments for January 2024 to December 2025.
Thank you, Dawn. Do any counselor want to pull one of the items off of the consent agenda? I do. I'm going to pull 9J. Counselor Christ.
Thank you, Mayor Peck. I actually had 3 items that I had questions about, and I want to compliment staff on working me through some of these topics. So I actually only have one item, and that would be H, 9H.
Okay. Counselor Martin?
Yes, I just wanted some clarification because I didn't miss, I think the city clerk said that you were going to pull a couple of this, permanently pull until a subsequent meeting. And which were those two?
It was 9E on the first reading, the first ordinance. And then there was another one on second.
No, the other one pulled was the special presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was the presentation for
So Resolution
for 9E.
2023-103 is pulled.
Yeah.
So E, J, and then Councilmember Chris H. Okay, thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll move the consent agenda excluding items E, J, and H.
Okay. All right, that's been moved by Counselor Martin, seconded by Counselor Yarbrough. Let's vote. And that carries unanimously. Thank you. So we are going to move to the ordinance of the second reading and public hearing on any item. The first one is A, 2023-67. It's a bill for an ordinance making additional appropriations for expenses and liabilities of the City of Longmont for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2023. Are there any questions from council on this bill? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing on 2023-67. Is there anyone in the public that would like to address this ordinance? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
I move O 2023-67.
Second.
Moved by Counselor McCoy, seconded by Counselor Hidalgo Faring. Let's vote. And that passes unanimously. The second one is 2023-68. This is a bill for an ordinance amending Section 3.04.885 of the Longmont Municipal Code, adopting an amendment to the employee contribution requirement of the City of Longmont's General Employees Retirement Plan. Is there anybody on council that would like to address this ordinance? Seeing no one, I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the public that would like to address this ordinance? Seeing none, I will ask for a motion.
I move O 2023-68.
Second.
That's been moved by Councilor McCoy, seconded by Councilor Martin. Let's vote. And that carries unanimously. We're now at the items removed from the consent agenda. Dawn, did you want a presentation on E, or are you just pulling it for later?
We will pull it, we will bring that item back on a future agenda, Mayor.
Thank you. And then we will move to the one that Counselor Christ, which is item 9H.
Is there anyone from staff that would like to talk about the establishing fees for criminal justice records? I couldn't, the problem I'm having is I couldn't find a list of what the prior fees were for comparison. I'm looking for a percentage of change on those.
Oh, you're here? Oh, okay. Yes. All right. Councilmember Chris, Councilmember Mayor Peck, Zach Hart, Public Safety Chief. I do have a old fee schedule in front of me. I'm happy to share that with you. My understanding is that what we did is we looked at our current fees or what they were. Right now, we have a lot of body camera video and in-car video. It takes time, and so we reassess the cost based on raises, how much hour and manpower hour it would take to retrieve these types of documents, to redact them. And so that is what we proposed as far as the new request for the fee schedule. But I am able to give you the old fee schedule if you have a particular question about a certain item or if you just wanted to see them.
Well, who requests this type of information?
Who requests this? Anyone in the public. So anybody that comes in and wants a copy of a report, anyone that wants a copy of a video, news media, a wide variety of things we prepare. We also prepare for courts, defense attorneys, city court, state court, anyone that may need this information.
Okay. Looking at your fee schedule, I noticed some of it was hourly, some of it was, a set fee. It was a little difficult to ascertain how much a document request would cost for someone requesting information. And I've just in my business, had time to be in court and have gotten there to find out that, we haven't paid enough in fees or, we're quoted the wrong prices. And I just have a concern about this, making it more transparent, I guess, to those who might request the information.
I'm a little confused about your question, so if I don't answer it, please stop me, correct me. So when folks come in, we have a fee schedule for certain documents. Certain documents, pulling a report, pulling an accident is very simple to do. Where you get into the hourly rate is the time it takes for an actual person to sit down and review the video. So whether it's redacting audio, because there's personal information such as social security numbers, birth dates are not allowed. It is blurring out faces because there are juveniles involved in the case. It does take an extensive amount of time to pull that. And we have people who will come in and request hours of video. We have people who will come in and just ask for a very specific period for videotapes. And depending on how many officers are at the scene, each one of those is a different body camera. Depending on how many vehicles were at the scene, those are also different pieces of video that need to be redacted. So when you see a flat fee for something, that is covering the time, the printer, the copy, the making the paper, and getting that item backed out to an individual. When you see it was an hourly rate, you're seeing the time it takes a manpower for an individual to sit there and go through that video, minute by minute, second by second, to redact things that cannot be released publicly.
Yes, I have some experience with video also, and it's very tedious, does take a lot of time. Is that something that you're getting a lot more requests for currently?
Yeah, since video cameras and body cameras have been introduced, we get quite a few requests for that. And again, like I said, we also do it for the prosecution. We do it for the public defender's office. We also do it for individuals that come in and request that video because they may have a civil case. They may just want a copy of the video because of an incident that occurred and they read in the newspaper. It could be for a wide variety of reasons, but we actually have 2 individuals that are assigned to do videos, nothing but videos.
Okay. So you don't really have a baseline for video redaction and review?
What do you mean by baseline?
Well, how long have you been doing video redacting and providing for individuals?
So I've been here
How many years?
So I've been here for 2.5 years.
Okay.
They've been doing it before I got here because they had video camera. Total of 5 is how long they've had body cameras.
Okay. Yeah.
I've worked at other agencies in other states, and we've been doing it for 10 years plus.
Okay.
I think, yeah, we're going to let Harold Dominguez speak to this.
I think one of the things it's hard to say is it really depends on the scope of the request. And so not only do we deal with this in public safety, but open records requests generally. And we have to give we give estimates of here's what we think it's going to cost. One of the things that's pretty consistent is we also try to work with folks to understand what it is that they really want in order to potentially minimize that cost. And so it's hard to say because as Zach indicated, what I can say is generally just open records requests. You will get some that are relatively simple and others that require hours upon hours of staff time to work through. And it's the request that really generates how much is it going to cost. Okay. So it's hard to say there's a real answer because they all vary.
And are you able to generally give a good estimate?
Yes, ma'am, we are. Like Mr. Dominguez says, what we do is we actually sit down. A lot of requests, we are very vague. We want all the body camera or all the video related to this incident. And so we meet with those individuals, we talk to them, typically they come to the window. Sometimes we get email requests, we reach back out to them and we explain to them the amount of hours it's going to take, the number of videos that there are, and what their estimated cost is looking at. So there is this upfront communication with an individual. If he or she decides to pursue that, then again, they have an upfront knowing what the cost is going to be, at least a ballpark of what that would be. Again, and so we do communicate that with you. We do communicate fee schedules of how much paperwork is or how much this accident report will be. And so all of those things are communicated to the public upfront. We don't try to surprise anyone. This isn't a surprise to folks.
Okay. I value what you do, and I know that this service and this information is very much needed and requested frequently. I'm just concerned about, it's really more of a policy type idea, which we're a policy board. And we're talking about, how do we keep the cost of living low in Longmont? And one of the things that drives inflation is continually rising costs. And so, and one of the ways to circumvent that or to try to put a lid on inflationary costs is to find ways to do the same type of work in a cheaper or more cost-effective way. And often in the past, that's been through technology. And I think what we're seeing now is technology is actually maybe providing more cost. But I just wonder if there's any way to minimize the non-video related costs in terms of filing and what have you, and just to keep it as low as possible for the public.
I can see that that's a very difficult question to answer right now, and perhaps you and Councilor Christ could sit down together if she has more questions on this subject.
Yes, ma'am. I'm certainly happy to do that. What I will say in closing is where our costs were, where they have been, and where they are at now, is us looking at when we have to stop what we're doing to do other work. We now have to shift that work to stop, we can't do the work that's going on now because we have to stop to fulfill that request that we have. That can take time and take hours, and it's trying to recoup some of the money that the city of Longmont's already paying that employee to do their job. And so we don't have just an individual sitting there waiting for open records requests. We add that work onto what they're already doing, and they have. And so they have to stop the work they're doing to do this. And so really this reimbursement doesn't come back to the public safety. It actually comes back to the city to offset that employee's salary or the time that he or she has to stop doing their job in order to fulfill the open records request. So we are happy to sit down and talk about the cost further, Mayor, as you suggested. I'm happy to meet with you, Councilman Christ, and talk through that with you. But I just wanted to leave that piece with you.
Oh, yeah, and let me reiterate, I totally appreciate the efforts that you put forward on this, and appreciate some time that we could get together to
Yes,
discuss
ma'am.
it further.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Can I add something to that?
Sure.
I'd just like to tell you that, I'm sorry, I'm Janae DeQuazy. I work at the Records
Can you
Department.
pull the microphone over to your mouth?
Sure. Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
I'm Janae DeQuazy. I work over at Records. One of the things I wanted to bring to your attention is that some of our older records aren't kept on site. So we have to request them from Iron Mountain, which is an off-site storage facility. And currently, it costs us $30 to bring the box in, and we have been charging $15 for the past several years. So we kind of had to reevaluate where our costs were because we're just in a hole with just that. Records are kept 5 years. Previous records are kept 5 years at our department. Everything else has to come in from our off-site storage. So that was one of the increases that I thought maybe you'd have a question about because it is a large increase. So I just want to let you know that. Thank you for your time. I appreciate that.
That helps a lot. Thank you. Counselor Chris, do you want to move 9H then? Make a motion.
I'll move that we move Resolution HR 2023-106 to the 12/19 meeting. Second, anyone? Well, it just gives me time to get more information on what was the base schedule and what are the increases in fees and why. And it just that we didn't have time to talk about that today before the meeting.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Seeing none, it dies for lack of a second.
Okay.
So I'm going to move Resolution 9H.
Second.
I moved it. Counselor Hidalgo Faring seconded it. Let's vote. And that passes 6-1 with Counselor Christ in opposition. And I brought up 9J, which is approve the request for city sponsorship of the Nepali event. And I am going to vote for this. I just think that it might be confusing to some of our residents as to what this really is. And it is a sponsorship, but what does that sponsorship from the city involve? And it involves the Nepali community asking for the use of Roosevelt Park, the stage, water and electricity, police and trash, and use of the museum if they want, and that amount comes to about $5,300. Just for your information, that does not come out of the city budget. It comes out of the city contingency fund, which means that, I'm sorry, not the city, the council contingency fund, which means the money that we can use as discretionary for just about anything. So I am going to move to approve the request for city sponsorship of the Nepali Jatra event. So it's been moved, I moved it, and it was seconded by Councilor Yarbrough. Let's vote. And that passes unanimously. Thank you. Now we're going to have a staff presentation. And this is by our principal planner, Glenn Van Nimwegen. Yeah, he's also the planning director.
Do them all.
He's principal and he's director. So this is for the proposed amendments to the Longmont Municipal Code, Chapter 2.56, Historic Preservation Commission, regarding designations of districts and landmarks, maintenance and demolition of structures 50 years and older, revising enforcement, and adding decision-making capacity.
Here, hang on one moment. We're trying to find his presentation.
Sure. Different button
That's what I'm wondering. Is it under the?
I don't think we pulled it because we went straight into it.
Mayor and Council, I would like to introduce, we have a couple of our HPC members here. Our Chair, Stephen Lane, is here, and our Commissioner, Doug Mendelson, is here. Barnard, I'm sorry. Sorry, Douglas.
Well, that makes me feel a whole lot better.
And our Assistant City Attorney, Jeremy Terrell, worked tirelessly on this as well. So that's what we have to show you. You're more than welcome for the zoning map. I have one for Joni as well. Anybody else would like a zoning map, let me know. It's paper, so. 1, 2, anybody else? Any other takers? 3, okay. This is rolled up, but yes, it will cover your wall. You can mount it on foam core.
You should be good to go. Okay.
Sure. So I can.
Yeah, there it goes.
Cool.
It goes up and down. Thanks.
All right. Excellent. Okay. I'm ready when you are. So we covered the first slide. I want to introduce the dignitaries that are in the meeting, even though I messed up their name. But we just want to talk about the actual changes that are being proposed to Section 2.56. Some of you remember a year ago, we did kind of delve into this in detail in executive sessions and in a joint meeting with our Historic Preservation Commission. We haven't amended this section of the Longmont Municipal Code. The historic preservation portion was added in 1993, and we've had a couple of minor edits in 2003 and 2005. Staff and various staff and the Historic Preservation Commission have been working on amendments to this section of the code since 2021. We brought in outside counsel last year to draft some amendments, and they made some presentations. And it was a very large effort. And I think the Planning Commission, or the Historic Preservation Commission, felt a little overwhelmed. It included, we discussed districts and landmark process. Certificate appropriateness is what we issue when somebody makes changes to an adopted landmark in the community. We talked about demolitions, and then it was proposed that we adopt a historic preservation overlay zoning for all our existing landmarks in future districts, which would then precipitate a legislative change to the zoning map. And then we also discussed additional enforcement recommendations. Staff went back to the HPC and said, well, why did you get into it to begin with? Because that was prior to my time, and they said, we really wanted to button up some changes, primarily in the demolition section. But we did hear some things through that process a year ago, so staff is also proposing some other changes. So just to kind of talk about geography a little bit, the important parts that we're going to be talking a lot about is the original town site for Longmont, which is the blue line that basically goes from 9th Avenue to 1st Avenue, Martin to, I think, Bowen on the west. So, and within that blue area, you see a lot of red dots. Those are all landmarks that have been designated by the City Council after a recommendation by the Historic Preservation Commission. And that's done by ordinance, and that gets recorded against the property. Then we have these three areas that are green, blue, and pink. Those are national districts that are on the National Register and also on the State Register. But they are not local Longmont districts. As you can see, most of our historic resources are in the town site, so we do pay particular attention to what occurs in the original town site. So one of the changes that staff brought forward to the Historic Preservation Commission had to do with how many landowners do you need on a petition to ask for a new district? Again, we don't have any yet, but this is something that's been in the code, and right now it's 25%. And I know I heard comments from either it was our outside counsel or maybe it was council members that 25%, that's not much. You got 12 landowners within a proposed district. You only need 3 to sign the application and move it into this preservation process. Staff thought, well, more is better, so we proposed 75%, create a very strong district where everybody's behind it. But after negotiating with HPC, they thought, well, I mean, the majority is what rules, right? So they ended up at 51%, and I think we support that. Another section of the code says when you adopt a new district, there is an opportunity to create design guidelines of what is appropriate changes to the homes within that district. Again, right now it says 51%. We stuck with that. Staff asked to, again, be consistent, go at 75, but if we keep the first one at 51, it makes sense to keep this one at 50%. Then the code does allow for folks within a proposed historic district to opt out. If they get a certain ways along and they signed on for it and they say, gee, no, I don't think I want to do this at that point. Right now, the code says 51% of those folks that have signed on to a future district can sign a petition saying, we want to remove our names and basically stop the process. We basically, with the 51%, reduced that down to 30%, and it was something that HPC agreed to. And then we have a process where somebody can revoke a district, and that goes through the Historic Preservation Commission. It was only 25% of the folks within that district, and it was increased to 51 just to be consistent. So again, we don't have any districts yet, but we hope to at some point in the future. So again, the main point, I think, of historic preservation was reviewing of permits for demolition and moving of undesignated structures. So those would be structures that have not been identified as a landmark and identified as adopting an ordinance by this council saying it is a landmark. So there's kind of a wide net that's thrown in the current code. It says anything in that town site, that original town site, if it's 50 years old, it gets a review. And its initial review is by our staff liaison, who's Jennifer Hewitt-Apperson, and a council member. We've just kind of picked Aaron in the past because he's been our representative from council, but the code isn't very specific on that. I think from town staff, from the staff standpoint, that's problematic in a few areas in that ultimately you may be asked to vote on a revocation or something like that, and working with the applicant might be problematic. But that was something we looked at. And then this would not apply if the building official or the fire marshal said, this is an unsafe structure, we can't save it, and it's going to hurt somebody if it doesn't come down. So they overrule the process and the structure can be removed at that point. So the process is proposed to change a little bit. So right now, this is what it looks like. Somebody makes an application for a demolition of a structure that's 50 years old in the original town site. It gets reviewed by a staff person and a council member. And basically, you're asking yourself, is it landmark eligible? So in most of the original town site, or a lot of the original town site, we've done surveys. So we know those sites that are potentially historic and could be meet the criteria for becoming a landmark, but not all of them. If those two folks say, no, this really isn't contributing to the historic resources of Longmont, then they go ahead and give the okay to the demolition permit. If they say, well, you know, it really ought to be considered right now, today, it goes directly to city council. And then you review that with whatever evidence we have and have the same question. Is it worthy? If it's not, go ahead and approve the permit to demolish it. If it is, a few things happen. The actual timeline on the permit gets extended. So staff, and it's actually the code states it's the city manager, could negotiate with that landowner to see what can we do to convince you to preserve that structure. And then if that doesn't work out, ultimately the council could be asked to designate it by ordinance as a landmark. I don't believe we've gone through this process all the way, but again, this is today's process. It takes about 60 days. In fact, it's capped at 60 days, so we will not delay somebody's demolition permit more than 60 days. So what's proposed by staff and the Historic Preservation Commission is that instead of the staff and the liaison review it, it would be the HPC chair, has some technical expertise in this area, that would do the initial review. Same questions apply, same actions apply, except that if they state that, okay, it's worth an additional look, it would go to Historic Preservation. And then Historic Preservation would have the same decision. Should we push it up to council, or should we go ahead and approve the demolition permit? If it goes to council, same rules apply, same decision. The only difference here is in time, is that this does take additional time. It's 90 days total, so we add 30 days with this process. However, from the applicant's standpoint, they get a couple of hearings to make their case. So they get a little bit more democracy, I guess, out of that additional 30 days. And even at that, it's going to be a crunch. But something that the commission added that's new is basically rules that if you have a landmark, you have to maintain it. You cannot just utilize planned obsolescence to allow it to degrade to a point where demolition is the only answer. So there is a short section in there that says if you have a landmark, you must maintain it so that it doesn't become structurally unsafe, and thereby the only answer is demolishing it. We use a different term, deliberate neglect, deterioration of a landmark to the point that there's structural damage and there's no going back, basically. So that's a new section of the code. And then enforcement penalties. Let me grab my notes because this is something a little confusing for me. But right now, it goes to a section of the code that basically says there's a one-time penalty that if somebody changes a landmark and say they make changes to an approved landmark without going through a certificate of appropriateness, the only enforcement we have now is a $500 fee. We can take it to court and basically ask the court, can you compel the owner to put it back the way it was so it does have its significance that was taken away? What we're actually adding is that it be an administrative enforcement, which is what our code enforcement folks do. They have a little bit more discretion. They have kind of an increasing penalty if somebody is non-responsive to bringing it back. I think the fees go from $100 if you don't do anything and you basically ignore staff. It goes to $200 and then up to $500. So it's what we use in code enforcement, and really our goal there is to get to compliance, not necessarily charge people fees. So that process, I think, works a lot better in getting to where we want to be, and that's restoring any landmarks that have been degraded by somebody's action. One of the other things we've seen other cities do is if you demolish a landmark without any approvals, you have a moratorium on future building permits of 2 years. And we've seen that in other communities, I think Westminster, and I forget the other one. If you just make changes and you don't get a certificate of appropriateness, there's 1 year. That's how we presented to the Historic Preservation Commission, but the commission said, well, wait a minute, that could be deleterious to our historic area by having nothing happen on this site. So we're proposing that the HPC, if whoever it is says, well, I do have a great replacement that will fit in the district, this is what it is, they can reduce that time. So there's potentially an out from that process. One thing staff added was Historic Preservation Commission is a quasi-judicial, they make quasi-judicial decisions on changes to landmarks, which is certificate appropriateness, recommendations on districts, and I think certificates of hardship are all quasi-judicial decisions. So we wanted to put in place the same rules that apply to the City Council and the Planning Commission for those decisions. So it's actually taken right out of Chapter 15 for the Planning Commission. There's nothing really different in that section of code. So that's it very quickly, a lot of information, but we're just asking if you feel the red lines that are before you are worthy of going forward to an agenda. We haven't placed it on agenda yet. We will do that. If you have any proposed change, let us know and we can address that, or you think all of it's a bad idea and we will pack our bags and go away. No.
Thank you, Mayor Peck. Yeah, I think it's overall a good idea. I have a couple of requests for clarification. First, on slide 4, way back there. There we go. Opt-out means that only the people who asked to opt out are exempted. Is that correct?
Yes.
Versus, so, but you have to have a third wanting to opt out for anybody to opt out. Is that right?
A third of the folks
Well,
that,
30%.
of the 51%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then revocation of design, if you get 51% that want out, then the whole thing's off.
Right.
Okay. Now, I think it's about 9 or 10, the proposed 90-day process for demolition hearings?
Yep.
Yeah.
This one?
There was no number visible. So sorry about that. You mentioned that the initial review is by the Historic Preservation Chair and the staff liaison, is that correct?
Right.
And it raised the question for me, I guess the staff liaison always has a certain amount of expertise, but the chair of the current chair of the Historic Preservation Commission has a lot of expertise. But will that always be true?
Well, we are actually by city ordinance required to have people on HPC that have expertise in various areas. So maybe
Is
it's,
it always the chair?
no, wouldn't necessarily always be the chair, but I think we put or designee.
Okay, because it doesn't say that on the slide, so yeah, and I'd be willing to have Steve answer that as well, but designee or designee. So the presumption is that somebody on historic preservation is an appropriate second to the staff liaison.
Right, and perhaps we need to add that clarifying language. It wouldn't be that big of a change, but somebody with the technical, designee with the.
Yeah, define the technical, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a suggestion, but that was just what I tripped over when you were
Okay.
saying it. Thanks.
Counselor Martin, did you want to put those as amendment? Because that's one of the options. Do you want to amend this to state that? Okay. Counselor Yarbrough.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a question, thinking about, all that we're doing with affordable and attainable housing. Are there any unintended consequences that may come about with all of this? Just thinking about that, especially like when you think about redevelopment with the historic areas. So I don't know, because I'm not, I'm still learning all of this, but I know that's our goal, right? That's our vision about attainable and affordable housing. So are there anything that maybe we don't foresee right now that can come up? Any consequences towards that?
There are some communities, and I'm thinking in California, where they have a little bit stronger mandate for affordable and attainable housing. There have been people that said, we've seen an increase in people applying for national registration. The assumption is maybe they're trying to block that effort. I think what I would tell you for Longmont is this doesn't really affect vacant land. It's a small part of the community. I don't think it's going to hinder our abilities to provide affordable housing.
Okay. And redevelopment either, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, I was thinking along the same lines as Councilor Yarborough, in that we're having a lot of capital improvement projects that are stalled because of the increased costs of redesign, redevelopment, what have you. And I would be concerned with somebody that has an older property that suddenly needs a lot of work. Usually those go into the thousands of dollars. And is there going to be time and a working with attitude to help people improve their properties? You know, because sometimes you can't fix it that year. You have to save up for it.
Right. Yeah, and anybody that has a landmark, hopefully they know that. Now, something that Historic Preservation Commission has said is maybe we need to retrace our steps and notify those folks that, hey, that plaque means something on your structure. It means there's special rules that apply. The other thing that HPC is and staff is putting together is a survey plan to identify those areas that we maybe have not looked at of whether there's a potential landmark, so we could potentially reduce the amount of the undesignated structures that are going through review. But you're right, and in fact, we had an HPC member that was a little concerned that are we telling somebody, and maybe in the east side, at one time those were affordable homes, you have to maintain these up to a certain standard. I think in what we're proposing here, I don't think is too overreaching. It says you must keep it from falling down. I think that's a standard most folks could meet. Am I answering your question?
So you're saying you're keeping the bar very reasonable. But you're also going to identify properties where people bought them maybe as a modest investment or a fixer-upper that was affordable or attainable, and now you're going to identify it as potentially something that must be maintained to an HPC level. And are you going to give them some grandfathering or some time to come up to that standard, or?
Well, the only thing that, if you're not a landmark, the only thing this ordinance touches you is if you want to tear it down.
Okay.
And that's when we would look at it and say, well, geez, you have a lot of, you click a bunch of the boxes as far as it being a landmark. If they become a landmark, then we do have carrots. We can write off building permits and a number of things to as an advantage to somebody to maintain historic property.
So, but you are going to be identifying more landmarks than exist right now.
If we find things that are potential, right, our first step would be reach out to them and see if they would, on their own, bring it in and tell them the benefits of being a landmark in Longmont.
But the majority will be geared towards demolition, reducing demolition of
right.
Historic
we'd like to
areas.
See, those landmarks, stay.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Seeing no one else in the queue, our options to give are to direct staff to bring back for adoption an ordinance to approve the proposed changes, or direct staff to bring back for adoption an ordinance to approve the proposed changes as proposed with changes or amended. That's the way I'm, as amended, yeah, okay. Or forget it, don't bring back anything. So can I have a motion? Well, I am going to move actually to direct staff to bring back for adoption an ordinance to approve the proposed changes to the Longmont Municipal Code pertaining to historic preservation as recommended in the attached redlined draft. Okay, seeing no one in the queue for discussion, let's vote. That was moved by myself and seconded by Councilor McCoy. The thingy won't go back.
Councilmember Yarborough and Christ, if you'd like to verbalize your vote, I can record it for you.
Thank you, Director Van Nimwegen. We have another presentation tonight, and this is the City Council Work Plan Reporting, and I would like to invite Becky Doyle to the podium.
There we go. Good evening, Mayor Peck, members of council. I'm Becky Doyle from Strategic Integration. And what I have for you tonight is, is an item to help you all track the progress toward the work plan implementation for the council, city council work plan that was identified at the last retreat and officially adopted in August. And obviously may be amended at a future council retreat. So looking essentially for feedback or direction if this is something that's helpful for you to see on a quarterly basis, which is our proposal, that we would include this as an information item quarterly moving forward to make sure that everyone's on the same page as far as what has been accomplished toward the council's goals. Obviously, this is supplementary to some of the tracking mechanisms for things that are already part of city plans and other things, you know, such as our climate action reports and goals, but a tool for you all. Any thoughts or questions?
Okay, we're trying to get the screen to come on, I'm sorry, but we did listen. Councilor Martin.
Yes, I love the idea of having this quarterly report, and yeah, probably even more, but, but I'm not sure how to interpret the stacked graph.
Sure.
So, for example, one that's near to my heart is assess the housing need gap. And just to give us some factual references, right? So the council accepted sometime last year the housing needs assessment. And so I can clearly understand that that was a big thing and it's completed because council accepted it. And yet nevertheless, you can't tell how many houses are needed. And so we have heard from the Housing Authority that they have additional data from state agencies that clarifies that. And how would we know whether that's what the in-progress part is, the clarification, or what the other stuff is?
Sure. So in this case, what you see in this stacked graph here is that this indicates that 3 specific actions around assess the housing needs or gap were identified. 2 of those actions are complete and 1 is in progress. To look at the specific action, you'd go to the housing page and look at all of those 4 items under assess the housing need or gap. Okay, that is 3. So that's helpful. And, and note that the in-progress item is resident surveys at events and online. So I think perhaps that the state agency's additional information has not been identified as an action in the adopted action plan.
Ah, so good. So does that then mean that at these quarterly reports, we would have the opportunity of identifying new actions that could be added to the stack?
I will punt that question to Assistant City Manager Sandy Cedar.
Mayor Peck, members of council, Sandy Cedar, Assistant City Manager. Councilmember Martin, I think what we want to do is have this as an annual planning event and then be able to report on our progress as we go. As is any meeting, you're certainly welcome to make motions and have discussions about additional work plan items. I think this is really more to show you what the progress has been made between quarter to quarter. And so I would say that in any kind of conversation where you're adding items to the work plan, probably needs to be met with a balancing of that work plan as well. So every time you add things, what other things might need to either come off or are other priorities that maybe are completed. So it's kind of a tricky question because in some cases, one thing leads to another, and so we want to make sure that we're reporting those actions as well.
Yeah, you know, in the example that I had come up with, it was sort of, yeah, we thought that was a fascinating report and we all thought that the methodology was good and everything, and then we tried to use it to get answers and we found out that, nah, can't do it. So, you know, I would sure hate to wait till 2025 to get better answers out of that, because it's critical information.
And
So,
Councilmember Martin, I would also mention that this isn't the only time that you'll see these items, right? So this is just the reporting of the work plan in general, which we would like to do quarterly to ensure that you know what kinds of actions are being taken and how far forward we're moving with those goals. Housing items will come back on their own to be able to move forward as well. So that's more of the conversation and the action planning and where you may want to take different policy decisions or add different actions. This is really more intended to report on the things you've already given us.
okay, so then the question then for how to interpret the stacked graph is that every stack is the same width, and you have to go look at the other page to see what they are.
Yes, if you want more detail, then there's more detail that you can dig into and take a look at. It's supposed to be, I think, a quick, like, oh, hey, we're making progress in these areas.
Yeah.
And here's some areas we're concerned about, perhaps.
And this is a live dashboard, so we could click and
This
see
one is
or-
not live. This
Okay.
is a PDF. We can probably discuss how we might do something more applicable, but there are
You know, I'd take
technical implications.
I'd take the PDF. If there's some data analysis, we want more. Okay, but thank you.
Plus, we want to make sure that this is the information the council's looking for out of this reporting. So she's kind of mocked this up for your approval. If this is helpful for you all to be able to kind of keep track of the work plan and how things are going, then we'll continue to move forward with it. And is quarterly the right cadence, you think? Yes.
Yeah, and if I can jump in, Mayor, I think one of the things is, as we're moving through this, to Councilmember Martin's point, we're going to be learning through this document and what we're doing. So I don't think that it's going to be static and that we're going to evolve as we're seeing things. And I think what we're finding, similar to the housing conversation that we had as LHA commissioners versus, you know, what we talked about in the housing study, we may identify things where council may go, well, we want to know this, and it'll make sense, but it may be in the housing discussion. The other thing that we're talking about and they're building is the concept of the live dashboards. And so they're working on some of those things now in terms of what we need to see operationally. And we are talking about how do we give council a view in this, and we're building some of those now. But just know that's coming as part of this overall reporting process.
Counselor Christ.
I really like the report. And I think we're always more attached to our own spreadsheets and what have you, but I found this, especially the strategy progress, was very helpful. And the overall progress, I was surprised to see that Not Started, the transportation actually has a large bar, because last night, Phil Greenwald gave a rundown of all the projects that were started, and there's quite a few, actually. So it just tells me that there's a lot more. So, but I think the thing I had the hardest time with was the task counts by due date. And I think, and I'll just make this suggestion, I don't know if it would be helpful to anyone else, but when you scroll down, you'll notice that the first line is, the due date is the fourth quarter. And it might be a little easier if it went from first quarter down through, if you just rearranged it so that quarter one was first for the due date, everything that needs to be done in first quarter is listed first, because it would follow this graphic. You have task counts by due date a little bit more. You could say, okay, Q2, we have 4, and those would be the first 4. Otherwise, I found I was looking for them.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes,
Thank you.
but
That's
well done, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take a look at that. Thank you very much.
All Becky.
No, all Anna, all our staff. So great. I'll close that. I think we're good then. Or do we need direction? All right. Thank you all very much.
You don't need, this was just a presentation, you don't need direction. We did give it.
Yeah, I think we were just looking to make sure that this is the direction that you'd like us to go, that these are helpful, answer any questions about the graphs and show you how to use the detail. And it sounds like a live kind of look would be desirable, and that you'd like to see quarterly reporting, so.
Yeah, and I didn't look at the second page that you pulled up very well, but you pulled it up. Because I was wondering what inside those marks, the blue, the brown, what were the tasks you performed to get there? And that was the second page, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So that way you have the details, but you're able to look at it, kind of as a quick look to see how things are going.
All right.
And Becky's right, it is the whole staff pulling together to get this work done.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. So that is the end of our special presentations. We are now at final call, public invited to be heard. Is there anybody from the public that would like to address council? Seeing none, I will close final call, public invited to be heard. We are now at mayor and council comments. Do we have any comments from council? So, let's go to city manager reports or remarks. Harold?
No comments, Mayor, Council. Thanks for affording me this opportunity remotely.
I'm glad you're taking care of yourself. City attorney remarks.
No comments, Mayor.
May I have a motion to adjourn? Second. All right, it's been moved and seconded that we adjourn, everybody. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, we are adjourned.